We all love to complain every now and then about the weather, if it's too hot or too cold, the food not tasting in a certain way, the money we earn is little, the number of hours we need to work is a lot, our parents, our partner, the prices of certain things, our skin, our health, and la-di-da-di-da. The list goes on. Now ask yourself, do I complain only every now and then, or is it a bit too much? I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine last year about this. She likes to mention and pick out on things which she doesn't like more often than other people. Upon asking her, she said to me that it's okay for her to complain about things because we are human beings after all, and we'd like to complain. She added, it's okay to mourn about things rather than keeping them in your heart. I told her about the great philosopher Marcus Aurelius and his ideology being not to be a complaining person. She said, well, that's because he's a philosopher and not a scientist, and science says it's mentally healthy to say things that are on our mind. Now that made me raise an eyebrow because I also like to say things from a scientific point of view and quite admire the philosophy of Stoicism, which is all about acceptance of situations just as they are. For example, loving the physical labor that you do and not always seeking comfort. Also about sometimes putting yourselves through uncomfortable situations on purpose, just so you can appreciate the things you do already have and be grateful. Check out my video in the link below for a thorough guide to Stoicism. It made me wonder, how does complaining affect our mindset? And is there any scientific evidence of the effects of complaining on our brain? Let's have a look at it today. Thinking back to my conversation with my friend, I wanted to find out what science has to say about complaining. I came across this amazing work by Dr. Travis Bradbury, who is award-winning co-author of the #1 best-selling book and has written for or been covered by Newsweek, Businessweek, Fortune, Forbes, Fast Company, USA Today, The Wall Street Journal, The Washington Post, The Harvard Business Review. So the man really knows his stuff. According to Travis, research shows that most people complain once a minute during a typical conversation. Complaining is tempting because it feels good. But like many other things that are enjoyable, such as smoking or eating shitloads of bacon for breakfast, complaining isn't good for you. You see, your brain loves efficiency and doesn't like to work any harder than it has to. When you repeat a behavior such as complaining, your neurons branch out to each other to ease the flow of information. This makes it much easier to repeat that behavior in the future. So easy, in fact, that you might not even realize you're doing it. Think about something as simple as accessing a particular app on your phone that you use regularly. You don't have to look for it carefully the next time. Your fingers automatically know which way to swipe to quickly get to it. You can't blame your brain. Who'd want to build a temporary bridge every time you need to cross a river? It makes a lot more sense to construct a permanent bridge, so your neurons grow closer together and the connections between them become more permanent. Scientists like to describe this process as neurons that fire together, wire together. Repeated complaining rewires your brain to make future complaining more likely. Over time, you find it's easier to be negative than to be positive, regardless of what's happening around you. Complaining becomes your default behavior, which changes how people perceive you. And here's the kicker. Complaining damages other areas of your brain as well. Research from the Stanford University has shown that complaining shrinks the hippocampus, an area of the brain that's critical to problem solving, memory storage, and intelligent thought. Damage to the hippocampus is scary, especially when you consider that it's one of the primary brain areas destroyed by Alzheimer's. Complaining is also bad for your health. While it's not an exaggeration to say that complaining leads to brain damage, it doesn't stop there. When you complain, your body releases the stress hormone cortisol. Cortisol shifts you into fight or flight mode, directing oxygen, blood, and energy away from everything but the systems that are essential to immediate survival. One effect of cortisol, for example, is to raise your blood pressure and blood sugar so that you'll be prepared to either escape or defend yourself. All the extra cortisol released by frequent complaining impairs your immune system, and makes you more susceptible to higher cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. It even makes the brain more vulnerable to strokes. It's not just you. Since human beings are inherently social, our brains naturally and unconsciously mimic the moods of those around us, particularly people we spend a great deal of time with. This process is called neuronal mirroring, and it's basis for our ability to feel empathy. It is the reason why we cry when we watch a movie where a fictional character is dying or is in emotional or physical pain. The flip side, however, is that it makes complaining a lot like smoking. You don't have to do it yourself to suffer the ill effects. You need to be cautious about spending time with people who complain about everything. Complainers want people to join their pity party so that they can feel better about themselves. Somewhere deep inside, they don't like complaining either, but they want others to do it too, so they are not the only one. Think of it as this way. If a person were smoking, would you sit there all afternoon inhaling the secondhand smoke? You distance yourself, and you should do the same with complainers. The solution to complaining. There are two things that you can do when you feel the need to complain. One is to cultivate an attitude of gratitude. That is, when you feel like complaining, shift your attention to something that you're grateful for. Taking time in to contemplate what you are grateful for isn't merely the right thing to do. It reduces the stress hormone cortisol by 23%. Research conducted at the University of California, Davis, found that people who worked daily to cultivate an attitude of gratitude experienced improved mood and energy and substantially less anxiety due to lower cortisol levels. Anytime you experience negative or pessimistic thoughts, use this as a cue to shift gears and to think about something positive. I personally have a gratitude journal where I write 3 things every morning that I am thankful for. You can do this simple exercise on a piece of paper. In time, a positive attitude will become a way of life. The second thing you can do, and only when you have something that is truly worth complaining about, is to engage in solution-oriented complaining. Think of it as a complaining with a purpose. Solution-oriented complaining should do the following. Number 1, have a clear purpose. Before complaining, know what outcome you're looking for. If you can't identify a purpose, there's a good chance you just want to complain for its own sake. And that's the kind of complaining you need to get rid of. Number 2, start with something positive. It may seem counterintuitive to start a complaint with a compliment, but starting with a positive build-up helps keep the other person from getting defensive. For example, before launching into a complaint about poor customer service, you could say something like, "I've been a customer for a very long time, and I've always been thrilled with your service. But recently, XYZ has bothered me." Number 3, be specific. When you're complaining, it's not a good time to dredge up every minor annoyance from the past 20 years. Just address the current situation and be as specific as possible. Instead of saying, "Your employee was rude to me," describe specifically what the employee did that seemed rude. Number 4, end on a positive. If you end your complaint with, "I'm never shopping here again," the person who's listening has no motivation to act on your complaint. In that case, you're just venting or complaining with no purpose other than to complain. Instead, restate your purpose, as well as your hope that the desired result can be achieved. For example, "I'd like to work this out so that we can keep our business relationship intact." This gives the other person the motivation that you still want to keep the business intact, so they will actually work on the complaint. Bringing it all together. Just like smoking, drinking too much, and lying on the couch watching TV all day, complaining is bad for you. Put my advice to use and you'll reap the physical, mental, and performance benefits that come with positive frame of mind. I hope you found this video helpful. I will be making further self-improvement, philosophical, and interesting content on this channel. So don't forget to subscribe. If you like my content, please like, comment, and share. Thank you for watching.